Hello, it is Diane with Diane's BlueHeartsAndButterflies.com, and I am going to display and show how to make each of the cards in my series here on faux leather stamping for the class that I just had. And this was one of the cards that was inspired by Kathy Crow, and I used the soft leather look on the background, and so I wanted to share how to do this with you. The things that I used for making this was the Rustic Retreat stamp set and the stitched rectangle dies, and all of the parts and pieces that I used came from here. I did use the watercolor pencils and a blender pen, but you could also use the markers to color in these. And let me show you the papers that I used. Now this is using the papers to create a leather look. So the base is 5.5 by 8.5. Score this in half at 4 1/4. And then I just fold that and burnish that score line. And then I have a piece for the inside that I have cut from the white cardstock, and this is 5 1/4 by 4, and we're going to stamp on that. This is the piece to create the background on the front, and I'm using the Mossy Meadow cardstock, and I cut it a little bit bigger than I normally do, just so that it would, because I knew it would shrink a little bit when we're doing the technique. So this is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8 of this. I also took some white and crumb scraps that I had, and I cut these pieces from the stitched rectangle stitch dies, and I used the 4 from the smallest. So that was the 1, 2, 3, and 4 from the smallest of the larger ones to cut these out. So this is the smallest, this would be the next, this is the next, and this is the next. And we're going to be stamping on the white pieces and then using the other layers. And then I also have a linen thread bow that I've created for that. So let me move some of this stuff aside because I don't want to get it messed up. And what I watched several different people doing the soft leather technique, and some people used water and some people used rubbing alcohol, and all of them were using the Stampin' Spritzer, and I chose to use the alcohol because it did make sense in my classroom setting, at least, that for them to do the technique and get the hands on, the alcohol dries faster than the water. And so basically what you're going to do is you're going to put that rubbing alcohol in your spritzer, and then you're just going to spritz all over the cardstock, and I did front and back. And then you're just going to crumple up the cardstock. And then you can open it back up, just being careful that you're not ripping the paper. And then you can just crumple it again in a different direction. And you can do it till you get ready, but it kind of creates that, I don't know, the old chamois look, I guess I would call it. It's a soft leather. And then you just kind of fold that out a little bit, and then you'd set it off to let it dry. And so I'm going to do that. And while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the pieces for stamping what we're going to do. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in a Stampin' Pierced mat because it just provides a better surface. Don't mind all the other stamping that I've done on this. I saw this cannot remember her name. She's from Michigan, a demonstrator, and she had wrapped her Stampin' Pierce mats with the grid paper, and it just keeps from getting a lot of ink on the mat, and I like that idea. So I just took and put that on all the ones that I use for my classes. So what I did is I am going to use the Thinking of You stamp from the Rustic Retreat, and I'm going to stamp that in Mossy Meadow ink. And it's always good, you're basically just trying to get the ink on the high parts of the stamp. You don't want to push it down in, because then you're going to get that kind of haloing effect around there. So if you did accidentally rock, it would get into there, or if you push down too hard, it would get around there. So basically you're just wanting to tap and get that a good coating on those raised image areas. And excuse my head. And then you just want to hold it there to let the ink kind of soak in. And so that one I'm going to set off to the side. While I have the Mossy Meadow out, I am going to go ahead, and this card opens this way. I always have to pay attention, because sometimes I get a little ahead of myself. And I'm going to use the little branch image that's in that Rustic Retreat set. And there I did rock it and get some ink on that, so I've got to be very careful. And I'm just going to stamp these in the corners. And then I'm going to use the Memento Black to stamp a message on the inside, and then also to stamp the house on the front. And this is one of the messages, the sentiments that's in this set. And since I'm saying Thinking of You on the front, I thought this one would be good in this inside of it. It says, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and loved more than you know. And I thought that that was just a good message that I would like to send out. And now bring this piece in for the house. You could always change the size of these rectangles if you want to use different images, different sentiments, just kind of the idea. And then, like I said, I did use the colored pencils to color this in. And I think I'm going to hold off coloring right now. I've done coloring on some other things, but especially with the color pencils, sometimes when you're coloring, it kind of leaves those lines. And what you kind of do, I just want to show this a little bit, is in order to get rid of those lines, I'm going to get that out from under there. Trying to get a little bit darker of a red on here. And also to kind of fill in some of the areas, I do use the blender pen, and I bring that in to just kind of soften those lines and blend them a little bit, instead of an aqua painter, which would kind of bleed it out a little bit and make it a not quite so vibrant. This just kind of does that. And then you just, it's like an aqua pen with the blender pens, you just kind of keep marking until it goes out, and you just color your image in to get that where you want it to be. And we set all those aside. And of course, through the magic of video, I did go ahead and make another leather piece on the background ahead of time. And I'm going to again bring back the Mossy Meadow ink. And on this piece, I just kind of wanted to have a stamped background to give it a little bit more of a look back here. So I took the trees that are from this same set, and I just inked this up. You don't want to do this before you spritz your paper, or else it would bleed. And so I just kind of took, and yes, it's not going to be perfect pictures, but it's just to kind of give it a rustic look. And I just kind of went different places, even kind of going off. And no, you're not going to see all of it. And I kind of brought it in. Okay. Get that ink out of the way so I won't have it in my view. Now I'm going to bring back all of the individual pieces, and of course I forgot to grab the multi-purpose glue, because I found the best way to adhere this piece onto the base was with the multi-purpose glue. Looks like I got off on my folding here on my base. Straighten that out. So, and I don't use a whole lot when I'm using the multi-purpose glue, because I don't want it kind of squishing out the sides. This one may be getting a little bit low. Let me grab another one. Thought I was ready, but I didn't have everything here. I'm just going to kind of put thin layer. It's not really a whole lot coming out. You just can see it because the green. I just want it to stick and not come up. So pay attention to opening at the bottom, and then make sure your trees are going in the right direction. And then this just fits with a border around. One thing about using the multi-purpose glue is you got a little bit of time to shift and move. And it just kind of looks like a piece of soft leather in that background. While we're waiting on that to dry, I'll adhere these pieces together. And I'm going to use the Stampin' Seal Plus. I find that I like that one better. The other one has a tendency to roll up, and the ladies in my class don't like it either. So we just went ahead and used the other one because it is better for us and the way we do our adhering. So everybody has a personal preference, and that's what's so wonderful about paper crafting, is it doesn't have to be like everybody else's. It can be whatever you want it to be. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the piece on the inside. This Rustic Retreat, a lot of people kind of look at it as a Christmas stamp, and it does have a Christmas saying in it, but it's any kind of outdoorsy thing. And the host for our class that we had this month wanted to concentrate on the faux leather technique as well as some male cards, because we don't always make a lot of man cards. Have a tendency to make them for our lady friends because we think that they're the ones that enjoy it more, but I've learned that men enjoy love to receive cards anyway as well, and they've got some really great stamp sets coming out with more outdoorsy and manly kind of themes to it. So the way that I decided to adhere these onto here was with the dimensionals, and so I'm gonna put some on the back of here. And I don't want my card or the image here to sag in the middle, so I'm going to put some others right in the middle too. And then pull those off. There's so many different ways that people have come up with for taking these backings off, and I find that most of the time it's just me and my fingernails is what works best for me. I'm going to put that there. And then this one is going to kind of overlap a little bit, or it could. And so I just want to be sure that I don't put anything too close to that edge, because then it would be popping it up from the other already popped up piece. So pull that back a little bit. Okay. And then finally what I did was I took the linen thread bow and I just took one of the glue dots and rolled it up. It's a little bit cool here in my studio and it's having a hard time wanting to roll. So I'll just do it with my fingers to get it back behind that knot. And then I just adhered that where I wanted it to go. And that's how you get kind of a really nice thing. I'll come back and finish coloring this, but I wanted to give you just kind of a really cool look at a fast technique. It doesn't take a whole lot, and it's really fun and shows another way of using papers that they don't look like paper. So I hope you enjoyed that and that you will subscribe to my channel and also go over and check out my blog at dianesblueheartsandbutterflies.com for the instructions, and I also put the measurements over there so that you can have that and a link to the video. So please check it out and hope you have a good day.